Good morning, traders, and welcome to NewsWares Trade Talk for Friday, December 5th. Let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps. The S&Ps are trading higher. We're up 0.23%. We were up about a tenth of a percent most of the morning, but have since started to spike a little higher. So, that's very positive. The markets are waiting on the latest round of economic data. There is some positive activity also because of some Netflix news we shall get into in a second. But, the key data point for today is that PCE report. That PCE report is going to be for September. Okay, now, it typically comes out at 8:30, but because this is September, it's going to come out at 10 a.m. this morning. So it's coming out after the opening bell. But the sentiment, still remains positive for the Fed to announce a rate cut next week. And then you got the Warner Brothers, Netflix deal, because Netflix is going to be buying Warner Brothers, and that's causing a lot of momentum to be positive and sentiment to be positive this morning. Also in the media field, you get Comcast. They're going to be spinning off cable networks, CNBC, MSNBC, into a new entity, into a new independent publicly traded company called Verisant Media Group. It's going to start trading later this month, but it is interesting that they are spinning that off. And these two news stories are happening at the same time, which is really boosting the sentiment today. What else do we have? We got Microsoft. Did you know they're holding their annual shareholders meeting today? Could be something then there. On the earnings front, listen, you got Ultra Beauty, RBRK, and IoT, Samsara. They're all trading higher after their earnings releases. HPE and DocuSign, DOCU, they're trading lower. Next week, you got a number of good earnings coming out. You got Broadcom, AVGO, Johnson Outdoors, JOUT, KC General Stores, CASY, NDSN. They're all scheduled to release. So now we're going to be taking a quick peek and seeing what's happened over in the European markets. And we're looking at the DAX. The DAX is up 162 points, or 0.68%. The factory orders out of Germany, they increased 1.5% for October. That's positive for them. In London, the FTSE is up 0.05%. It was up higher, but financials are mixed. Energy and mining stocks, commodity-related stocks, they're showing some gains this morning in France. Market's higher by 0.26%. Strength. I see strength in autos and banks. That's good to see. Then we're moving over to Asia last night, and Asia was, I call it mixed to higher. I guess the Nikkei pulled back 1.05%, but it was up, like 3% over the last 3 days. So a little bit of profit taking is to be expected, and bond yields rose, the yen strengthened, and they got that BOJ meeting, later this month, and they're likely to raise rates at that December 18th, 19th meeting. Hong Kong, the Hang Seng rose 0.58% with positive momentum in tech and consumer stocks. In China's markets gained 0.7%, 0.7%. You saw strong action in tech and clean energy stocks. Next week, they got reports on inflation, trade, and producer prices. They're all scheduled for release. And then we're taking a look at oil this morning. And oil's really looking for a catalyst. I mean, the prices are down slightly. You got WTI at $59.58 a barrel. You got Brent at $63.19 a barrel. I noticed yesterday Fitch Ratings, they cut their 2025 to 2027 oil price assumptions. They're calling the market oversupplied, and production growth is expected to outpace demand. So, they're lowering their costs a little bit there. Okay, let's get into the earnings action and take a look at what we saw in earnings. We got to start with DocuSign, ticker DOCU. They beat by 9 cents. They did it on higher revenue. You look at the stock this morning; it's down 6.5%. Rubik, ticker, RBRK. These guys beat by 27 cents on higher revenue, and it's up over 18% this morning. Recall that's our stock, that was our stock of the day. And then you got Ultra Beauty, ticker ULTA. They beat by 54 cents on higher revenue. That stock's up 6.5%. Next week, you got, on Monday, we got earnings coming out from YEXT and TOL, Toll Brothers. They're both expected to release earnings after the bell on Monday. In terms of economic reports, coming out today, listen, the big one's the PCE report. That's coming out at 10 a.m. What can I say about it? the forecast is for inflation to hold steady at 2.9% in September, while core inflation is expected to rise to 2.8% from a year earlier. You also got the consumer sentiment report coming out at 10 a.m. That's the University of Michigan report. Factory orders are due out, and then at 1 p.m., the Baker Hughes rig count is scheduled to be released. Okay, now let's take a look at the markets and see what we're seeing in terms of, news hitting the tape this morning. I got 8 down. My Dow stocks, I got 8 lower, 2 unchanged. That means 20 or higher. So yeah, that's positive momentum. And I'm seeing a little weakness in Netflix and Apple this morning, which is to be expected. But everything else is trading higher. That's good to see. And then you're looking for news behind the tape on some of these stocks. You're looking at Apple, and India's government is discussing a proposal to force smartphone firms to enable always active satellite location tracking for better surveillance. I don't know how, Apple's going to push back on that. Amazon, they're going to pay Italian regulators 180 million euros to end this tax and labor probe. Meta platforms, they're going to be shifting away their spending from the metaverse. They're shifting all to AI. Netflix, hey, Warner Brothers Discovery, they received $23.23 in cash plus a Netflix stock. So that's positive. And, in terms of Tesla, Elon Musk, he got hit with a $120 million EU fine for content law breaches over content that was streamed on X. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, we got to talk about IBM. IBM is designated as a critical third-party provider under EU DORA Act. Salesforce, CRM, their agent force was selected by AstraZeneca as a unified global platform. That's kind of nice. In terms of merger news, Paramount came out yesterday and they said, discussed the fairness of the WBD bidding process. It was a clear indication that they are losing. If they're going to come out negative on the bidding process when a deal hasn't been announced, they're weak. They showed their weak hand. It was pretty evident that they were not going to win. In terms of guidance news, Cooper Company, COO, they see their full year 2026 EPS coming in $4.45 to $4.60. Street estimates $4.39. That's an uptick. Ultra Beauty also upticked. I mean, they raised their full year 2025 view to $25.20. And their earlier estimates were $23.85 to $24.30. So that's an uptick. RBRK, Rubik, they raised their full year 2026 EPS view to negative 16 cents and negative 20 cents. Street estimate has it at a negative 49 cents, so that's a nice uptick. In terms of the shareholders meeting, like I said, Microsoft holding their virtual shareholders meeting today. It's going to start at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. In terms of buyback news hitting the tape this morning, UNM, Uncle Nancy Michael Urim Group, they authorized a 1 billion share repurchasing program, and TRMB, Tom, Richard, Michael Boy, Trimble, they announced a 1 billion share buyback program. It's replacing the prior authorization, though. That's what's key to be announced. Okay, let's talk about our stock of the day. I think there's going to be an opportunity with Netflix, NFLX, Nancy Frank, Larry X-Ray, but it's about the entry price. They won the buyout deal. The stock is off a little bit, but it's likely to move a little lower at this opening, which I think is going to be an opportunity. You look at yesterday's call volume. I mean, 303,000 versus 170,000. That's positive. Open interest 2.8 million versus put open interest at 2.9 million. That's essentially flat. But I got to tell you something. If it trades down in this $95.50, $96 range, this is a good entry point for the stock. And I think that's what I'm going to be looking for today. I'm going to be looking forward to, $95.50 to $96. If it hits that, that's my entry point to pick some up. But, my pick of the day, I'm going with Netflix. It's cautionary. There's no earnings to trade this morning, so this is one that's going to have a lot of volatility, and I think there could be some, nice opportunity here in Netflix, NFLX. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about the stocks that are hitting the tape this morning that are moving. Let's see, what do we got here? SL Green office lease volume reaches 2.3 million square feet. Salesforce CRM may be rebranded as Agentforce, says the CEO. Victoria's Secret's VSCO trading higher after earnings beat and guidance raise. Banks to provide Netflix with up to 59 billion bridge loans for this deal. LSCC, Larry, Sam, Charlie, these guys announced a 250 million share repurchasing program, latest semiconductor. Ticker EL, Estee Lauder, they're going to be focusing on incubating new brands as part of their growth strategy. BCC, Boise Kincaid, their CEO is going to retire in March of next year. That's all I have hidden the tape this morning. Okay, let's talk about yesterday's pick of the day, which was RBRK, Richard Boyer, Richard Kilo, Rubik. I mean, listen, the stock opened up at $71.40, fell down to $69.67 and closed at $70.43. But after earnings, the stock hit a high of $83, and it settled, trading higher at $81.50. You look at RBRK this morning, and the stock is still continuing to hold those gains. RBRK is now trading 83.30, so it's up 18.27%. And listen, we were looking for an entry price, of 70.85. So we said give or take 25 cents. But either way, this thing was a pure winner because the stock's up 13% this morning. So yeah, RBRK, nice win, very happy. Okay, guys, that concludes today's Trade Talk podcast. Guys, you know what I ought to do. Let's go out there and let's get some green.